man, oh Manischewitz, do we have a lot to talk about. Immigration as relates to Afghanistan and so forth. Venezuela. I see some legal analysts are writing extensively on how what the President and Secretary of Defense are doing is illegal and unconstitutional, which is BS. I want to tell you about the Internet, how toxic it is, how manipulative people on there are, and how it adds to so much of the some of the problems we have in this country. And we'll get into all this stuff. But first, let's talk about this Venezuela issue. It's funny, Jack Keane, General Keane and I were of the same mindset, but I was digging into this. On December 20, 1989, United States military invaded Panama. No declaration of war. It was a surprise attack. We launched Operation Just Cause. We invaded Panama. There was no consultation with Congress until after the invasion began because of fear of leaks, for the purpose of deposing Manuel Noriega. He was, among other things, another drug kingpin. He was running a narco police state. And he was working closely with the Colombians, and they were shipping those drugs, not exclusively, but mostly into the United States. The theory was to restore democracy in Panama, which is fairly democratic now, and to drag Noriega. Oh, my goodness. That's crazy how my iPhone is talking to me. Let me shut that off. Sorry, folks. Wow. Comes to technology, I'm like the last to know. But as I was saying, they brought him to the United States to face drug trafficking charges, and the goal was to protect American lives. Now, the Panamanian Defense Forces, they put up a defense, but they were what they were. And there were casualties. About 300 Panamanian soldiers and civilians were killed. 23 of our soldiers were killed. Hundreds were wounded in Panama. And we backed a government by Guillermo Endara. Noriega was eventually convicted, sentenced to prison in the United States, and it goes on and on. But the point is this. That's a lot of military activity, lethal military activity intended to stop a narco mobster from using his government, his country, police state tactics, working with other countries, including enemies of ours, or certainly adversaries of ours, to push drugs into our country, which obviously is a horrible thing and kills a lot of our people. Now, I see some of these former federal prosecutors are writing very long pieces trying to tell you that these are criminal issues, not military issues, not terrorist issues. You know, they're not mutually exclusive in this case. You can still bring somebody to justice in a courtroom if that's your goal. But the idea that you can't take action against another government in our hemisphere that is purposely killing our citizens, in the case of Venezuela, working with the communist Chinese, working with the Iranians, working with other governments, and pouring that poison into our country and contributing to the death of hundreds of thousands of American citizens is absurd. Absolutely absurd. And yet some people are writing this up as if these are war crimes. Now, they're basing that on a report that the President and the Secretary of Defense deny, that there were a few guys on one of these boats who were not killed from the explosion of the boat or hanging on the end of the boat, and we sent in special forces or somebody to kill them. And the administration says, no, that's not what happened. So I don't see these great legal or constitutional impediments to protecting the people of this country at all. And also, Carolyn Levin pointed out today repeatedly that we have informed Congress, that we have briefed the key committees like we're supposed to, that we have made the documentation available to them, that almost 30 members of the Senate and well over 100 members of the House have looked at the materials. Many have been briefed on it. So what is all this talk that we haven't told Congress? Now, they want more answers from the Pentagon. I guess they'll get more answers. But I just want you to know that these are actions that are being taken to defend our homeland directly. Now, I'm sure some of the isolationists will view this as another forever war or whatever they spew. You must be a neocon. They don't even know what a neocon is. You a neocon? You an interventionist? You're a forever war guy? What are you? So any action, pretty much, to protect even the homeland directly. That shows you how unhinged these people are, for the most part. Of course, we have a right to prevent other governments from pouring drugs into our country as they conspire one with the other. That's outrageous to suggest otherwise, that you have to bring it into a courtroom. That's just nuts. It's not true. Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Here we are. Caroline Levitt at the White House briefing today. Let's go to cut 11, Mr. Producer. Go.
President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Very simple. Just stop sending drugs to the United States, and there won't be a problem. But they won't stop. Because the truth is, Venezuela has acted as a hub for many of these terrorist states, Marxist states, whatever states. And he's become a multi-billionaire as a result of this, pushing drugs into our country and killing our people. Now let's pretend the guy didn't run a government. It was just some billionaire sitting in Venezuela and doing it. You think we'd put up with that? The fact is, he's taken over this government. He's not the duly elected person in charge of this government, 2 elections in a row. And he's using the power of a government and the geography close to the United States to pour this crap into our country. Now, for those who say this is a criminal matter and needs to be dealt with criminally, well, we'd have to send a significant land force in there to get the man, wouldn't we? Are they allowed to shoot their way in, or what do they have to do? How are they supposed to get in there? And how are they supposed to get out of there? So the president's trying to put maximum pressure on to force this guy out. For some of you isolationists out there, you might call that regime change, right, Mr. Producer? The president wants regime change in Venezuela. That's what he wants, and he's right. And he's correct. Did he say regime change? Ooh. Must be a neocon Jew. Psst, sick. Carolyn Levin on this Washington Post story says Hegseth ordered everyone from the drug boat killed. She said, that's not true. Cut 14, go.
The initial order from Secretary Hegseth, everyone be killed, and did that come from President Trump?
I saw that quoted in a Washington Post story. I would reject that the Secretary of War ever said that. However, the president has made it quite clear that if narco-terrorists, again, are trafficking illegal drugs towards the United States, he has the authority to kill them. And that's what this administration is doing.
So now the usual anti-Americans are calling this a war crime. A war crime? And many of these people spewing the phrase war crime have been defenders of Putin, have been defenders of Hamas. They're very subjective about their moral claims. This guy, Senator Mark Kelly, who was encouraging the military to basically overthrow this administration, here he is, cut 15, go.
Based on what CNN is reporting, what the Washington Post is reporting, do you believe if there was a second strike to eliminate any survivors, that constitutes...
I've told you before, there is no difference between the media and the Democrat Party. There's just none. The media exists to advance the propaganda, the talking points, the policies, the power of the Democrat Party. They exist for no other reason in this country. Go ahead.
It seems to. If that is true, if what has been reported is accurate, I've got serious concerns about anybody in that chain of command stepping over a line that they should never step over. We are not Russia. We're not Iraq. We hold ourselves.
Too bad they don't understand our military history. We're not Russia. We're not Iraq. We don't have to be Russia and Iraq. We want nothing to do with them. It's amazing to me, how they would have our war fighters fight wars with their hands tied behind their backs. This is why you have such disasters under the Democrats and under some Republicans. Here's this guy, Angus King, named after a cow. Cut 16, go.
It's all about the facts, Kate. The law is clear. If the facts are, as have been alleged, that there was a second strike specifically to kill the survivors in the water, that's a stone-cold war crime. It's also murder. So the real question is...
It's amazing. They will bend over backwards to give quote-unquote due process to mass murderers, to murderers who are imported into our country. They will bend over backwards. But when it comes to Pete Hegseth, that's murder, man. These are war crimes. If he gave these orders, he's finished. That's it. That's it. Based on a New York Post story that's been denied. Go ahead.
Which orders, when were they given, and that's what we're going to get to the bottom of in the Congress. As you point out, the bipartisan interest in this, Roger Wicker, the chair of the Armed Services Committee, has said we're going to dig into this. So it's really
you dig in. It's amazing to me how close some of these rhinos are with the isolationists. It's amazing to me. Running around, neocon, and yet they're the cons. So here we have the rhinos. They're raising questions like the isolationists raise questions. And what are we trying to do here? Protect the United States directly and the people of the United States from one of the most horrendous drug warlords in the world, who uses his military to kill his people, to torture his people, to rape his people, to enslave his people, as well as hired gangsters and militia, in order to keep control over that society and continue to make his tens of billions of dollars killing our people. It's just funny in a sick way.